You know, we get so identified with our own narrative of self, which is a story that the mind has constructed, a story of self, an identity the mind has constructed over a lifetime because of what we learned from mom, dad, school, media, society. A lot of it we learned before we could intellectually interpret anything, and we just took in life, and we created stories about I'm unworthy because, you know, mom or dad can't exhibit love, can't show love, and so I must be unlovable, things of that nature. We are so identified with that idea of self that in the awakening, as who we truly are, transcendent of the body, mind, and ego story, self, transcendent of that, beyond that, before you were born, after this incarnation passes away, who are you really? That essential divine consciousness of being, who we really are, is so typically unknown because it has been covered over by a character, by an idea of self. It's like been glommed onto by this false identity. And in this work, in this path of awakening, what we're doing is like we're getting a pry bar in there, and we're getting it in between the personal identity, the ideas of self, also known as the dream of self, the egoic mental construct, the psychological construct of self, that we're not, and who we really are. We're starting to get a pry bar in there, and we're prying apart the reality of our being that's been covered over. We're prying off. It's like a crustacean. I'm thinking about like on a whale. You know, down in Baja, I used to do sea kayaking, whale watching trips with the California gray whales, and they would have all these barnacles and such on them. And if they got too much, you know, you'd almost stop seeing the whale. You'd just see the crustaceans. But we're prying apart that which is glommed on to the reality of us, the lie, the character, the story. And we're prying it apart so we can get some distance from it, so we can start to recognize that we are the witness of this story and not the story itself. So this is why we practice. This is why we study. This is why we come back to these conscious conversations on a regular basis. Every meditation, every self-inquiry, every contemplation, every conscious conversation like this is that pry bar loosening up, prying apart the glommed on story of self and revealing the truth of who we are, the innocence, the true nature of our being, ready to blossom when we remove or get some distance from the illusion of self that we've created in our own mind. And I'm not a big Spider-Man movie buff, but I do remember there was one of them, Venom, I think, where a dark character had stuck on, had glommed on to Spider-Man, I think. And there were scenes of him like trying to pry this sticky figure, which was in the movies depicted as the darkness, you know, the fear, the greed, the avarice, and trying to pry that apart from his goodness. And that's a lot like what this work is about. We're trying to pry apart and pull off this sticky self, this sticky identity that is glommed on and is covering our truth. So I invite you to be in your devotions, be in your practices, be in your studies. And every time you are, you're wiggling that pry bar and separating out, oh, the real me, this is who I really am. Oh, this is just story. Oh, this is just narrative. Oh, that's my conditioning, my programming, my wounding, and I can get some distance from it and know and be in my rested divine grace, noticing the turmoil and tumult of my story. So just think about that. Every time you're in a meditation, every time you're in a conscious conversation, every time you attend to your studies of reality, of non-duality, of who you really are, you're wiggling that pry bar and you're separating out truth from fiction. And if you want help with this, I've got a beautiful course called Beyond the Noise, right? Beyond the noise, beyond the stories, beyond the narratives. Who are you really? Beyond the noise of your own narrative, who are you? It's a beautiful course, Beyond the Noise, and you can find the links below. And I invite you to give yourself this gift of study and of consistency and of devotion, because it takes a while for that pry bar to pry apart something that's pretty sticky, really sticky, and it needs to be separated out so that we can see the story that we tell about ourselves as what it is, a story, and we can see it from a truth about ourselves, an unwavering grace, the divine peace and love and wholeness and grace that we really are. See, the ducks agree. I got ducks here in the rice fields. They know who they are. They're clearly ducks. Beautiful. Here, I'll just show you a little shot of this before we wrap up here today. There we go. There are the ducks. All right, my friends, be well. Take care.